cancelled flights, crew stranded in conflict zones, and rising airfares. These have all added to the complexity of marine travel in recent months. Seafarers power global shipping and trade, and ensuring they get between the vessels they work on and their homes and families is a vital part of the supply chain. Hi, this is Marcus Hand, editor of Seatrade Maritime News here. In today's episode, you'll be hearing from an expert in the marine travel business, Vivian Miranda. Welcome to the podcast, Vivien, and could you briefly introduce yourself and the company you work for to our listeners?
Hi, Marcus. Thanks for having me. I am the Vice President for the Energy Resources and Marine Vertical at BCD Travel. BCD is the only family-owned, independent global travel management company that exists today in the market. We're into everything from corporate travel, the ERM travel, or life sciences, meetings and events, the whole gamut of travel management services.
And you're very much involved in this whole area of crew travel, right?
Absolutely. So that's my bread and butter. So I have grown up in that space, been in and around it throughout my career. So marine travel, crew travel, whether it's to the offshore space, oil and gas, mining, or the ships, it's our area of focus.
Right, so that's an area we've seen a lot of activity lately with the conflict in the Middle East and the impact that's had on crew travel and the crew themselves. Maybe you can describe a little bit about what's happened to our listeners.
So essentially, since the crisis in the Middle East has started, what we've seen is an escalation in costs of travel. So our role has primarily been facilitators, advisors to our clients. So our clients, especially in this instance, the maritime companies, the offshore oil and gas companies that have assets in the region, they rely on us for up-to-date market info of what's happening on the ground, which locations are open, which airports are open, what's closed, what visa requirements or what kind of immigration requirements are needed. So our role comes in as being the advisors, being the facilitators to get people on and off those vessels. Now, of course, it's been a challenge for various reasons. One is the airport closures, airlines not willing to fly, government regulations, restrictions, and just in general, the wartime environment has created a sort of panic in the industry as a whole, where a lot of our clients are a little more weary, of course, because it's seafarers, they're our lifeblood, they are absolutely critical to our global supply chains, and making sure that they can get on and off vessels, go back home to their families is absolutely critical.
Okay, if we look specifically, firstly, at the situation in the Middle East, and then I'm going to talk more broadly about the global situation, have you been helping facilitate for your clients to get seafarers home from that region, or what's been happening?
So absolutely. So we have definitely been facilitating. So we have clients that have ships in region. We have clients that have oil rigs in and around the area as well. So we have been arranging ground transportations through the ground corridors. We have been arranging flights to and from various regions. So what's happened is traditionally, I would say probably if you think of the Iran being 20%, 25% of global crude oil coming out of Iran, the Middle East is around the same for us in the travel sector, where probably 20-25% of the travel that happens between Asia and Europe transits through the Middle East. So when you think of that as a number, that's a huge amount of crew that sort of transit through either Doha or Dubai or Bahrain or somewhere in the Middle East that are either joining ship or going back home. And as you are, I'm sure you're aware of it, India and the Philippines are the two biggest players in the crew space. So we have clients that are moving people to and from the Middle East to the Philippines, Manila, to Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore. So it has been a challenge. We've kind of had to go find routes which are still open, which may require a land element to it, which traditionally would not be the case. So ship would come into port, we get them from the jetty to the airport, fly them out immediately. Now what we're having to do is probably go by road to a different country. So you do a land crossing, and then fly out from there back home to your respective place.
And that's for the Gulf region itself, is it?
Yes, yeah, that's predominantly for those few major sort of countries and ports that are surrounding the Strait of Hormuz.
So this has actually been a huge disruption for the crew travel sector then, if you say it's sort of 20-25%.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been an even bigger, for us. We have the different verticals and clients that have assets all over. But if you just focused on the Middle East, I think it's, yeah, I really feel for our clients and the crew on board that have been in some cases stuck, because at the end of the day, it's not our decision, right? It's not a travel management company's decision. It's the shipping company's decision, the ship manager, the ship owner that finally has that say of do we go or we don't go. So, and where, of course, to do that crew change, because these ships are carrying crude oil, they might be carrying grain, they might be bulkers, they might be containers. So it really depends on the risk appetite of the company concerned and whether they want to do a crew change there or do they just divert the vessel and do it somewhere else. We have had clients that have diverted the vessels. So they've waited there for a couple of days, nothing has changed, and eventually they've had to move. They've had to go around.
Right, so it's quite a dynamic situation that you're coping with then.
Absolutely. I think the last time we saw this was during COVID, and we haven't seen it since. So it is something which is highly fluid, constantly changing. But yeah, it's right up our alley. That's what we do. So we have teams that are sitting 24/7 around the clock in the different regions around the world, just catered to solving this problem and being there for our clients.
If you're enjoying the Seatrade Maritime Podcast, make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing on the app of your choice. You mentioned though the COVID. I mean, in terms of the impact, how would you compare the two?
I would say it's close, but not as bad, because COVID impacted the whole world, right? In a way that kind of shut down airports and movement all around. But in this case, we are seeing it's sort of centralized around the Middle East region. The rest of the world is still traveling. So you still can fly from Asia to the US or to Europe. It's just a little bit of a detour. And from an airline perspective, it costs a little more or a lot more to kind of take that detour. And I guess the end result is the consumer is paying the price for it. But yeah, it is doable. So the impact isn't as bad as what we saw in COVID. But if this does continue, I think the ripple effects throughout the airline industry, the tourism sectors on the large, and of course, travel management companies will be significant.
Yeah, because we are now seeing talk of airlines reducing flights and things like that.
Absolutely. Airlines are reducing flights. If you've seen the news recently, there was a closure of an airline in the US as well. So those kind of effects will happen, because when you think about it, jet fuel or aviation fuel is a huge chunk of operating expenses for the airline. So it's around 20 to 30%. If you're a low cost airline, which Asia is full of budget airlines, low cost airlines, that cost can go up to 40 to 50% of your operating expenses. And aviation fuel, to refine it, used to cost before the Middle East crisis, used to cost in the range of $20 to $30 to refine it from crude. Today, it's more than 100. So that is really hitting the airline industry. So it's impacting the availability. So a lot of airlines are scaling back. So as we head into the summer holidays, it would be interesting to see the real impact on the ground of flight cancellations, having to rebook, and if you haven't bought your insurance, or if you're a corporate and you don't have a good travel management partner, you're kind of flying blind into this. You don't have the insights. You don't have the sort of partner who's going to help you get out of this mess and plan ahead for you and rebook some of those options. So, yeah, I think now more than ever, you need a travel management company that understands this and has the info and the pulse of what's happening in the industry.
No, I definitely can see that. You mentioned though earlier about the Philippines and India being the sort of the two biggest locations for seafarers, and then a lot of that travel hubbing through the Middle East and then onto, say, ports in Europe and so forth, or back the other way. How do you work around that with the situation that you've got now?
From our clients' perspective, they have vessels that are in Asia, in Europe, in the Americas. They just send us an email or give us the roster that needs to be changed. We then go into our technology platforms and look at what options are available, what carriers are flying. So, you've taken out Emirates, Etihad, Qatar, Oman Air, Gulf Air. So, you've kind of cut the arms and legs off the Middle Eastern carriers. They've been grounded for quite a while, or they've had limited flights going in and out. So we are having to fly alternative carriers like Air France KLM, Cathay, Lufthansa, Singapore Airlines, which, of course, when you think of these airlines, you don't always think of them being crew or seafarer friendly carriers. They would traditionally be more corporate focused, more transient travel focused. But I think we've got some fantastic relationships and partnerships with the airlines. So we have been able to move people in and out of this region fairly seamlessly.
Okay, what is it done on the cost side?
On the cost side of things, definitely our clients are budgeting. So I spoke to a client just earlier this week, and she was asking me that she put up her budget of 30 to 40% to her management on just travel costs alone, and she's already seeing that may need to be reviewed and scaled up to maybe 50 to 60%. So when you think about it from a ship manager's perspective or an operator's perspective, so you have salaries, you have fuel, your supplies, and then, of course, the next cost for a ship manager or an operator is travel, which many people don't think about, but it is right up there after salaries and your fuel costs. So travel costs can hit a P&L or a budget for a ship manager or an operator big time. So it has gone up. We are working with the airlines to try and see what can be done based on demand. But of course, there's limited options of what is available right now. So, on the broader geopolitical scenario, they are looking at alternatives. So, can we get fuel from other sources? If not from Iran, is it from the US? Is it from Europe? Is it from Russia? It's a very broad spectrum. There's multiple avenues that are being looked at. But again, from just a travel perspective, costs have gone up. We are working with carriers. We are working with our clients to plan ahead. I think planning is very important in this. As ship managers generally, the window is 48 hours. So a guy needs to travel within 24 to 48 hours. In this scenario, that would be an insane cost price. So the longer you can stretch that, so if you can do it 5 days, 7 days, 14 days in advance, I think you're going to be a little better off than last minute travel.
That's going to come down to planning then.
Absolutely. So the fleet personnel departments or crewing managers would have added onus on them. And at a time like this, I'm sure they've seen it during COVID as well. You would have families calling you up. I've started off my career in crewing, and I remember where you have wives calling you, people calling you at all hours, where they want to know how their spouses are on board or what the plan is to get them relieved. It is a challenging environment right now to be fleet personnel, to be in the crewing department. You have so many variables that are unknown. The maritime industry or shipping is really an industry that is resilient, and travel as well is very resilient. It's stood the test of time over so many decades and crises.
Kind of look at the whole landscape at the moment. Geopolitical disruption seems to be becoming part of almost like everyday life. If you kind of look forward, how does a company like BCD look to sort of plan for these things going forward and almost like the unexpected?
For us, we are open by design, firstly, which essentially means we hear what our customers want. Given the scenario that we operate in today, and like you rightly pointed out, it is becoming very normal to have disruption, to have crises. We've seen it in Ukraine, we've seen it in the Middle East. Who knows what's next, right? So, from a travel management company's perspective, I think it's our role, it's our job to make sure that we are informative, We provide options, we provide valuable insights, data driven insights for our clients, and we're there for them 24/7, 365. So the last thing you want is a partner who, in times of crises, doesn't show up or doesn't have the ability to get you out of that situation. So for us, it's a lot of consultation with the industry. It's a lot of working together with our clients, with our partners, the airlines, our ground transportation partners, our visa partners, our partners in the markets that we operate in. It's a lot of consultation, it's a lot of planning ahead. So with my immediate clients as well, what I've been doing is we've been picking up the phone, I've gone and met them as well. We're actually sitting down and looking ahead. What's next? This crisis will end at some point. What happens then? How do you plan ahead? Because are prices going to immediately come down? No, they're not. It is going to take at least another 6, 12 months before we see some normalization, if at all. And that normalization will be a new normal. It won't be what it was before we went into the crisis. So I think a lot of clients appreciate that approach. A lot of clients see value in kind of having those discussions now so that they can make informative decisions and go back to their board and to their management and be ready for the situation as it comes. As partners, I think that's the biggest value that we bring is getting our clients ready for the change that's coming to their industry, be it through technology, be it through people, be it through processes, whatever is required in the domain of travel management. I think that's where we step up.
There's something I'd like to follow up with there, actually, because you sort of hear quite a bit about using AI in the travel industry. You mentioned about data and all that side, but you also talked about phoning people up, sitting with your clients. So which is more important, the human side or the technology, or is it a mesh of the two?
Personally, it's definitely always going to be a blend of both. Can AI replace or do everything which a human being can? I don't think so. We definitely do need a blend of both, and that's why we say we are open by design. It's people and technology that work hand in hand. We have some of the best people in the industry today working for us at BCD, and we have some of the best built for purpose technology for corporate travel and also for the energy resources and marine sector. We've partnered with people who understand the space, who are market leaders in this space, and their technology is really shaping not just today but also is built for purpose for the future of how crew travel should be. So in a short answer is, yeah, you need both. You need the people, you need the technology, and AI will help facilitate. AI will help sort of handle some of those more process driven, data driven number crunching and insights. But can AI sit down with you and have this kind of a conversation? I think not. Can AI sit down with the client and kind of be consultative and be sort of forward thinking? I don't think so. So yes, I use AI as well to kind of get some of the data that I need to help me crunch some of those numbers, to look ahead, to plan routes. Our agents use it as well. It is coming where our travel agents, when they're booking, you would have informative insights being thrown at you from the system. But yeah, there's no replacement for people there.
Yeah, I think shipping has always been that sort of personal business, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something we're seeing in shipping as well, right? They talk of autonomous ships, but how far can you really go with autonomous ships? You would still need crew. It's just whether it's a skeleton crew on board and then the rest sitting in an office somewhere staring at a screen and controlling it. But I think you would still need somebody on board.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how all this will develop. Now, just to kind of round this episode up, for someone who's sitting in the crew travel role right now, what would your advice be for them over the next 6 months or so?
Reach out, start that conversation if you haven't already started it around planning ahead. The crisis will end. This will sort of come to an end and things will go back to some form of normalcy. So you need to know what that's going to look like for your business. Talk to us. Let us come in. Let us kind of help you figure out where your people are at today if you're not already working with us. If you are already working with us, we know where your people are at today. Let's sit down, have those discussions, pick up on where we've left off around costs, around where that's heading, around availability, the faster or the better ahead we can plan, the better it will be in terms of getting those seats actually and getting them at a price point which our clients and their clients are happy with. So yeah, I think for the industry, for today, people who are sitting in crewing, who are sitting in fleet personnel, I think definitely reach out and have those conversations with your travel management partner. If it is BCD, I think we're already in the middle of having those conversations. If it's not BCD and you just want to reach out and have a chat, please feel free to. Otherwise, do reach out to your travel management company and definitely start those conversations. The earlier you do, I think the better visibility you will have and a better informed decision you can take.
Okay, great. Fantastic advice. Vivien, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to our listeners today.
Thanks, Marcus. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to the Seatrade Maritime Podcast, and we look forward to joining you on our next episode.